What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data Dash, and today is December 3rd of 2017. Well, folks, first and foremost, I want to give you a small apology and update. I apologize for the lack of content over the past few days. There's a few reasons why I haven't been making much content, two reasons primarily. First and foremost, I was having some issues with my mic. I thought it was the cord that was broken at first, but it turned out I needed to get an entirely new Blue Yeti because there was a part within the port that was messed up, so I didn't have enough time to go out and fix it, so I went ahead and bought a new one. Hopefully the audio sounds good and crisp for you guys, and I do hope to keep on getting some additional stuff from my mic. And along with that as well, we had some roof repair coming to our house, so there's way too much banging and noise and stuff to where I could even do content. So we're back in action, and we're here yet again for our time of the week to cover a weekly update on all things with cryptocurrencies over the past week in the sense of price action, news, and topics. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, the first thing I want to talk about here, because I know all of you are watching the charts, your eyes are glued to it, you're checking your Blockfolio app, going up and down, checking to see what your portfolio's at, and checking the price of Bitcoin. I know it's on all of your minds right now. And I want to kind of give you a sense of, just kind of level-headed approach, as always, like I always try to do. A lot of people are probably glued to the 5-minute chart. And I know some of you, I guess, whenever you're watching this, might be a little bit later, might see this big drop that came in on the 5-minute, where there's a good amount of Bitcoin sold, about 1,200 Bitcoin. Traded within a 5-minute period, and you can see Bitcoin drop hundreds of dollars. And for those of you out there who are getting very scared about these things like this, first and foremost, as you all know, I was thinking that Bitcoin would see some pretty steady resistance at 10K. I'll be fair, I was wrong on that, and it's the reason I didn't sell all my position, just in case if that were to continue going higher. But I want to be fair with you all. I understand a lot of people would want you to FUD or FOMO and these kind of events, or say, oh, you need to buy on the dip, or oh, you need to sell, it's sell it off, Guys, on the hourly, it's doing great. Daily, Bitcoin still it's kicking it. And I got to say, you see this crazy trade volume come in. It's because some big sellers are coming in, and maybe that should give you a little bit of a warning sign that markets are getting up there, and some people are closing profits. But that always means if you see Bitcoin come right back up, that there's buyers to match it. Any sell order needs buyers. So it's really how you want to interpret it. Some people take it as a sign that this market is getting to its peak. Some of them think that this is just the beginning and we're about to see the S-curve hit. We're about to see mainstream adoption. I don't know if either of those two are correct. And any good trader or investor never steps in saying, oh, I know it's going to go one way or not. I've felt pretty confident that we're going to get a pullback soon. We really are on the higher end of this, guys. And the reason I say that is because we're not seeing, the massive mainstream adoption that I think the media everyone thinks the media is driving right now. It's getting people interested who were doubters, but there still isn't that wave of adoption. There's no catalyst that's causing Bitcoin to gain this much day in and day out. So I think a lot of it's riding up for hype of the futures, as we'll talk about later on. But in short summary, if you're holding at these levels, folks, you got to understand this stuff is going to happen. You see all this very thin volume on the 5-minute. And if a seller comes in, he'll clear through all of these sell walls, and institutional sellers. We talked about back on my video when I was referring to the bubble for the Shanghai Composite. Again, when you have retail volume coming in, it can push up prices very quick because they'll eat up these sell walls, and they'll push up the price with very little volume. But again, just keep that in mind. Nothing to panic over with these kind of things. But if you do see a dramatic $1,000 or $2,000 drop, consider that it might be the start to something bigger. We are, after all, we have had a fantastic rally. And to be fair, I know a lot of you like me to look at the log scale chart. Still, a fantastic rally here. Again, there's a sense of a level-headed approach we have to consider here. We are at all-time highs, but it doesn't mean you have to panic sell. You can set stops. You can set orders to trigger when a price hits a certain range, and you can be disciplined and do it however way you want. But again, we're back to all-time highs on CoinMarketCap, guys. This is incredible stuff. Now, of course, with this Bitcoin drop, it registered down a little bit, but we had reached over $350 billion. And Bitcoin, I think actually it might have just hit today, with that recent drop. I think we reached up to we're still not there yet, but almost $200 billion in valuation for Bitcoin. So this is really incredible stuff. And again, has still continued to blow out my expectations for it. Again, I'm long-term on Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin to death, but I'll be honest, I did expect a correction at 10K. So one of my wrong callings in that sense. And I guess maybe I shouldn't have even considered locking in any sense of profits and rather set stops. But again, I wanted to do a partial share of my position. So still kind of on that train, still riding the rest of it, seeing how it's going. I have safety measures in place in case the market really starts to pull back. What I usually do in this case too, people always ask me what my strategy is. With Bitcoin having these dramatic sell-offs, you got to give it some room and some leverage because it could still have this drop-off and you could see this continue going back up. So how do I play this? Well, as Bitcoin's price continues to move up, I raise my stops. That's what any smart trader who understands that, how incredible this bull run is and how much potential may still be in it. If Bitcoin still continues going up, I'm just going to keep on raising my stop every few $100 levels, but I'm still going to give it some room. And the reason I do that is because I don't want to get shot out after one of these sells and then it come back up, unless I really feel like it's enough to justify a sell-off. So you have to find that risk to reward level, and I hope that makes a decent level of sense. I can talk about it more if you all want me to do a video on it, but on like how to kind of play Bitcoin long term, but also kind of maybe apply a little bit of trading strategy. But again, I keep my eyes on the charts pretty frequently as well. I just don't panic at it though, because I understand that, long term it's going to do well, and I've already locked in some of my positions. So enough rambling on that. Just want to give you a little bit of a perspective on Bitcoin and show you all that markets are still killing it. And altcoins have not been left behind either, guys. Just look at this. Unbelievable stuff. Really incredible. So again, you really have little to no altcoins in the red. They're either keeping up with Bitcoin or blowing Bitcoin out of the water. There's been some awesome run-ups in this market. But, keep a level head. Don't get too carried away with it. Don't let the FOMO get you if you don't have a huge position. Okay, so this is when I was looking at Bitcoin a few minutes ago, but we've already kind of taken a look here at Bitcoin. You all know that I think we're generally going to extend it. A big even to watch is 12,000. And, we always look for 50% corrections. As I've told you all, I still think we're going to get some form of a massive correction around that, around 50%. I don't know when it's going to stop out, but if you did have 12,000, big even would be back down to 6,000. And look at this. We had previous resistance there a few times, and we also found support there. Excuse me, sorry, okay, hiccups. We also found support there. So that could be potential levels. Well, we might not get the 5K level now that it's continuing to go higher, but you got to decide whether or not you want to trade it. So again, just look for those big even levels because there's really not much technical analysis you can do here. There's no Elliott waves or crazy technical indicator we can use here. If we took a look at the RSI and the MACD, we can see that it's quite overextended, but it's been quite overextended for some time. So TA has almost been rendered worthless on Bitcoin for now. It's more of just looking for price levels. All right, let's go ahead and take a look here at the second big leader in the market, Ethereum. Ethereum has continued to almost in a sense build this expanding channel of price action here. You can see its base has stayed relatively similar. However, the highs are getting more extended with every run up. And I think that what you're going to look for here more than anything is to see Ethereum hold around the 4 million Satoshi level. This is what I've been keeping my eye on to potentially add and convert some of my Bitcoin position down to Ethereum as a hedge. I think Ethereum, if it can hold this level of support, it will be probably a good hedge to hold. And you can actually take a look. Actually, I'll go ahead here to take a look here on the Bittrex exchange for Ethereum. We have more price action here as well to play with. But if you look at most exchanges, there's a very steady buy wall here at 4 million Satoshis. It's big even, as always. We always talk about price levels matter. But it's very important to keep in mind here. So, continue to watch 4 million Satoshis. And if it holds it very well, I think, in my opinion, it would be a good hedge device to go against Bitcoin if Bitcoin does start to correct. That's at least what I'm doing. You got to make your own assumption for yourself. So that's what I'm watching for any of the potential leaders, and especially with Ethereum. Let's go on now to XRP BTC. Take a look at Ripple. Ripple, man, I'm starting to lose a lot of my confidence in Ripple. The price level I look for here is 2,000 because if we take a look back historically at Ripple, it had a pretty solid bounce back over here on the 2,000 mark. Not to mention that was where it was before the breakout candle we had back in April. And I mean, it's big even. Outside of that, there's not much TA you can do outside of the fact that it's literally been on, a pullback ever since the altcoin rally back in May and June. There's just not much positivity. Actually, sorry, June was also a bear month as well. So you've got consecutive weeks of just sell off here. Now, some people would say, "Oh, it's cheaper than ever. Time to buy in." I mean, you could have that assumption, but Bitcoin, it's the question of does Ripple have the excitement to keep up with Bitcoin? That's the question. And as we all know, Bitcoin has been generally killing it. It's been doing a good job over the past few days. But if Bitcoin does continue to correct, as I think we're kind of seeing right now, maybe a little bit of pullback, if we do get the serious correction back down to the $1,000 range, maybe Ripple could be a good hedge because a lot of these altcoins are oversold or haven't been able to keep up with Bitcoin. Alrighty here. So let's go ahead. Let's take a look at Bcash. I almost forgot Bcash. And a lot of you are curious about that as well. And again, Bitcoin Cash, whatever. I don't want to trigger Roger. But on a serious note, with the trade of Bcash, I was really thinking about making a trade on it, potentially if it rode along this wedge, as you all might have seen in one of my most recent updates or on the live streams. I've been talking about potential swing trade with Bcash and a hopeful ride here on the ascending support of the wedge. Didn't hold it. And actually, a lot of people thought it'd be a hedging device when Bitcoin was pulling back. But really, even before it started to correct back up, Bitcoin Cash started to sell off as well with the altcoins. It felt the blood too. And the Operation Dragon Slayer that everyone was talking about happening, I don't think it's going to happen. It could happen. I don't know. There's been, if it were to happen, it would have been at 10K in my opinion. But right now, it's holding around there. I like how the sell side has stopped. But my trade for it is kind of cut out unless it really builds a base around one of the big evens like 13 or 12 million Satoshis. That's my kind of target for it, but I was hoping it would hold in the wedge. And because it didn't, it doesn't look very optimistic. And also, just to give you all a little bit of advice, if you all were curious as to how I was going to play this, if your question is, Nick, were you going to buy down here at the bottom of the wedge if it held? No, that's not what I would do. What I do is I wait until it reaches the top of the wedge, and I wait for a breakout above it. So I can confirm that, just like that, it's been able to break out of the wedge, it's confirmed price strength confirmation, and it's ready to have a ride upwards. That's how I trade wedges like that. And the same goes if I were to short something. If it comes down here and is a breakdown candle below it, you would short it. But sometimes, as you can see, things don't always just break out through wedges and stuff. But in a lot of cases, they can. And they can provide really great trading opportunities because momentum starts to set in. All right, and the last one we're going to take a look at is number 5 on the list, Dash to BTC. Now, Dash has been doing quite well comparative to most large caps. Dash has continued to see a pretty decent sense of adoption. I think they've got a lot down the pipeline, as I did on my Dash video about a month ago. And I think that what's nice is it's back in this channel. When we were covering it back here a few weeks ago, I was really kind of set on the idea that, what we want to look for Dash is it to get back in the channel, find support, as it did. And I think if we had the 50-day on as well, found that support. And now it's looking pretty confident. Now, we do have to understand if we take this to the US dollar value, I mean, some of these crypto values are really starting to go up, folks. Dash is almost about a little more than $200 away from $1,000. That's pretty incredible to say the least. Dash was literally just $270 not too long ago. But this is all, of course, because it's been able to keep up with Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has, as you all know, been killing it. So my analysis on Dash is to look for a potential pullback back down to 6 million Satoshis. Nice big even there, and it would line up nice and well with the support line here. And if it can hold that, keep an eye on it. It looks interesting at these levels, but not making any official trades on it yet. If it does hit 6 million Satoshis, though, that will be one of my large caps to potentially add to my portfolio. So I'm going to keep an eye on that there. Alrighty, so now that we've taken a look at the large caps here, in quick summary, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I know you all are tired of, I think some people think that I literally was just absolutely bearish at 10K and it was guaranteed time to sell. No, it wasn't. And that's why I didn't sell the mass majority of my positions. Again, in summary, I do still think markets are going to experience a 50% correction. Why do I think that? I'll give you a short summary. I think there's a lot of overvalued altcoins, not to mention the forks that have come out of Bitcoin that I think are practically rendered worthless in the next few weeks or next few months, whatever, how long it takes. But that's billions of dollars in valuation that are going to be cut out, because if you keep in mind as well, I'd say well over 90 to 95% of altcoins as well have no real unique technology. Most of them are reiterations of the Bitcoin source code, and they change small things, much like how the forks have, but they've just stolen the Bitcoin brand. So you're going to have, eventually, I think if you get a bear market in Bitcoin, even a decent correction, as you all see, altcoins pull back just as fast. So I think you're eventually going to get a flush of altcoins. I think you're going to get a flush of the forks. I think you're going to have issues with Tether, as I've been talking a lot about on the channel. They're still printing more Tether, so that hasn't stopped. And I'd like to see the audit on that as well, if they really have the funds. And then also I think BitConnect as well is going to come down. I'm going to eventually talk about that on the channel and go into a little more detail. I've done some extensive research on that, much like I have with Tether. And there's a lot of things in the market that are bringing a little bit of uncertainty to me. And a lot of people in the space, I know Crypto Investor and a few others, have been talking about these things as well. And I'm in full agreement with them. I think that there are some worrying factors with this market. So we have to play it safe at these levels. And they do have ramifications on Bitcoin. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the big player itself, Bitcoin again. A lot of people are excited about the news that came out a few days ago about the futures news. Around December 1st, there was an announcement from the CME group that Bitcoin futures are going to launch. I think it's on the 18th, December 18th, yes. So on the CME and Chicago Board of Exchange, you're going to have futures trading for Bitcoin. So we've, of course, been talking about this on the channel. People have been wondering for a date. And I'll be dead honest, I didn't think they'd be able to deliver it before the time of Christmas this year. I really didn't think they'd be able to deliver it. But, it sounds like they're confident they're getting it on the 18th. I say to keep in mind that this isn't just absolutely optimistic news, because people can go long and they can also short with Bitcoin futures. But this is a positive step for Bitcoin, because as much as I don't like institutional money getting into the hands of my fellow friends Bitcoin, us as a community, I don't want them to have too much money or stake in Bitcoin. It's all cash settled futures. They're actually not really touching the Bitcoin at the end of the day. So I don't mind them trading the getting a stake in trading Bitcoin and putting some of that money to work inside the crypto space to a sense. Keep in mind, though, as I said, we have to keep a level-headed approach. Bitcoin is near all-time highs. It was actually making all-time highs today. People will want to short Bitcoin as well as go long. So all we know right now is that the CME group listing Bitcoin futures is going to add a lot of volume, and it's going to add a lot of volatility. So bear in mind that this could be a very, very interesting period. Chris Dunn, I got to say, out of all YouTubers, one of my favorite ones out there, and he's been in the space for a while. Chris Dunn did a fantastic video on Bitcoin futures, as well as what to kind of think of Bitcoin right now that it's past 10K. He talked a little bit about the futures and how that's going to add a lot of implied volatility, and that definitely is something you want to watch out for. Is just see how the market reacts after futures are launched, because it's not just a guarantee to be bullish. But there is more futures coming. Excuse me about that, sorry. The Nasdaq is looking to launch Bitcoin futures as well in the second half of the year in 2018. So this is also exciting stuff. It's good to see, official names, the CME, Nasdaq, huge financial institutions coming out and launching different types of derivative-based futures and stuff where people can actually go out and trade it on an institutional scale. The next big step really is after these get implemented, if they go successful, then what we're going to have to look for here, and I think this is where you're going to see the S-curve of adoption and the S-curve in Bitcoin's price, where things just keep growing up and up and up, is the ETF. When the ETF comes out for Bitcoin, that is going to be a game changer for Bitcoin, in my personal opinion. But we're not there yet. We haven't. It's kind of a stepping process. A few other YouTubers have talked about it. I know Richard Hart's talked about it, where you're going to see a stepping stone of the different phases to mainstream adoption for Bitcoin. And I think ETFs are that mainstream adoption, because most people don't want to go out and register for a Coinbase account and have to worry about wallet addresses. They just want to play a piece of the action and ride the price action. I wish people would really care about wanting to open up, getting a wallet and actually holding Bitcoin not just an ETF, but that's just how some people are. I think that's what's going to happen for mainstream adoption, at least for Bitcoin for right now, until people get more of a grasp. But keep in mind as well, this is an announcement, much like it was with the CME group. However, the Nasdaq boss came out today, or actually, on the 30th of November, Adina Friedman, who is the CEO of the Nasdaq, she came out and stated that, to kind of keep it cool with this, they're still kind of experimenting with it. And much like we've been talking about as well, I know she had a quote down here. She said there's the futures, which is what they're hoping to launch first. And then if futures launch successfully, you have the ETF, the exchange traded fund. Now, if you all don't know what an ETF is, exchange traded fund is a very fancy word for, usually ETFs are either a bundle of stocks. So you can have, like, for example, you can buy a semiconductor ETF, all the semiconductor companies and stuff all bundled into a basket of stocks that you can buy in one single, ETF. You can do that as well for financial companies, for construction companies, solar companies, oil companies, whatever it may be. They usually bundle it together, or there's ETFs that are for commodities as well that you can trade on most stock exchanges. So you don't have to get into the derivatives market, which is more isolated towards institutional investors. The mainstream retail adoption, which is what we're looking for, is going to come with the ETF. So when the news starts coming out for that, oh boy, that is going to get Bitcoin investors excited. However, that's not coming until probably late 2018, early 2019. It's going to take some time. Unless there is really just a rush for people to get involved with it. If you run into the exchanges, I know, for example, JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and all these companies are going to be experiencing less trading volume because it's all going towards crypto markets. If they see their revenue going down, they are going to rush towards launching these. They need to do it because they're losing their trading volume. All new people are not, young people especially, which were making up a lot of the new stock trading volume and markets that were coming in, the new capital is coming in. It's now going towards cryptocurrencies. They keep up with the headlines and they're getting interested in it, and they prefer it over traditional stocks because there's an obligation against the banks. So I think that's good to see people are more interested in crypto. But I think finance is going to have to play catch up in that sense. But speaking of finance, taking a sense towards a little bit of catch up, however, Goldman Sachs is taking the opposite direction. Their CEO, who's actually not pessimistic on Bitcoin, has just been more kind of cautious. He hasn't been like the Jamie Dimon to JP Morgan. He's been more on a side of, we're waiting for it to stabilize. There's too much volatility. We don't want to, try to get into the space right now. I like this quote. He says, if it works out and it gets more established and it's traded more like a store of value and it doesn't move up and down 20% and there's liquidity to it, we'll get in it. I think that he's going to get a little too late into Bitcoin, like most institutions, or at least they're going to miss out on a lot of the run up if they're waiting for all of that to come into fruition. And Bitcoin isn't moving up and down 20% a day, but it is moving quite fast. So I can understand that. And this is why I think there's some hesitation on institutional adoption, but I think that institutional investors for the most part are on edge, and that's why they're kind of on this like level-headed approach. They used to think Bitcoin was speculation, it was a fraud, you had Jamie Dimons everywhere. Now they're not saying it. Now you have people like Mike Novogratz coming out saying that Bitcoin 10K was inevitable, and he's big, he's optimistic on Ethereum and blockchain in general. And I think there's a lot to look forward to in the long term, guys. So I'm not negative here. However, putting it all in summary, crypto markets are getting more volatile. Valuation is jumping up $10 or $20 billion in valuation, within a matter of a few hours, a few minutes. Things are fast moving. It's a fast market. So at these levels, if you can't handle the kind of price fluctuation, you might have to step away from the screen or have your measures set to either sell or to, just not look at it. You gotta find what works for you. If you all want my summary, I've already told you all what I've done. I've already locked in my Bitcoin position a while back, some of my Bitcoin position. And I'm still holding a lot of my cryptocurrencies. I'm riding it out, seeing what happens, and I have my safety measures set in place. And it's not too hard to find that. It's really what you want to set, a risk to reward profile that meets what you want inside your cryptocurrency investing and trading. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. If you all have any questions that I didn't answer in this video or any topics that I didn't cover, please leave a comment down below, and I'd like to hear from you all. Again, I apologize for being away for a few days. I'm back in action, ready to do some content, and I got a lot coming down the pipeline, guys. All right? Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.